Renault just can't seem to help themselves, can they? Following Alpine's embarrassing F1 season so far, the abject failure of Alpine's debut at Le Mans with a double DNF caused by engine failures, and the saga surrounding their drivers, you'd be forgiven for assuming that this was the bottom of the barrel. The news breaking recently, however, showed that there is still a long way for Renault and Alpine to go, as it was announced that Alpine are considering a move away from their own parent company as their engine manufacturer. Bruno Farmin has reportedly been holding conversations with rival engine manufacturers to consider the team's options moving forwards. But no matter which way you look at this is a pretty tragic evaluation of the Renault engine project, which hasn't been fit for purpose for the past decade and is now assumed to not deemed to be fit for 2026 onwards. It's been a source of joy for us to poke fun at Alpine and Renault for a while now, but that's been because of just how seriously they've taken themselves and how they seemed to genuinely believe that they were one of the big boys in the sport. Now, however, I think you can agree that this is all just a little bit sad. Want to know why Alpine is considering a split from Renault? We can't really blame them, but just what would this mean for the team moving forwards? And stick around because there could certainly be some pretty big winners if a split was to occur. So let's start off by looking at the facts. Renault have never managed to get to grips with the engine regulations first introduced in 2014, with their failure to adjust pretty much single-handedly ending Sebastian Vettel and Red Bull's dominant reign over the years prior. It's been a well-known fact around the paddock that a Renault engine in the car is a disadvantage of between 0.2 and 0.5 seconds on a good day, with the French manufacturer failing to ever get on top of the hybrid regulations. It takes no large leap to come to the conclusion then that this will not be changing with the 2026 engine regulations, and may in fact get worse with the trebling of the reliance on the electronic components. Alpine have been conducting what they have deemed to be a thorough internal investigation, which has left no stone unturned following their rather dismal start to the year, which has seen them struggle to get out of Q1 at most races so far, and they seem to have come to the conclusion that the engine program from their parent company is not up to standard, which has to be the slowest a penny has ever dropped. Because of this, the sporting division of Renault are considering a split from Renault as an engine manufacturer and taking on the new regulations as a customer team instead, something which from the outset is an absolutely insane idea. The thought that of all people, the French will swallow enough pride to have another manufacturer name on their cars is a non-starter, as they, like any other F1 manufacturer, will not want to give their cars as an advertising board to the very companies they are competing against. Because of this, it was assumed that Alpine would consider approaching Red Bull to use their new engine program. However, that has been shut down immediately by Christian Horner, who replied to the speculation by saying, "I think we need to establish ourselves first. We don't want to overstretch ourselves. I think already supplying 2 teams in 26, that is probably even slightly beyond optimum in year 1, but it just gives us the capacity and capability for further down the line. So I think first of all, we need to firmly establish ourselves, and then we will have the capability to take more on from there." So their old teammates in Red Bull have left them out in the cold, which gives Renault and Alpine the tough job of deciding which of the other 4 manufacturers are the lesser evil for them to get in bed with. If they decide they cannot pick, however, one will be picked for them, as there is an obligation for the team supplying the least engines to provide an engine for Alpine. This would be Honda, who as it stands will be the in-house manufacturer for Aston Martin, as Audi are protected by a clause that give new entrants to the sport no such obligation. Now, across all of this, one thing stands out to us, and to be honest, it kind of pisses us off. How the hell is F1 going to tell us that the clowns at Renault and Alpine, who have no clear direction and can't decide whether they'll be providing the OEM that is so integral to the team's entry to the sport, are better placed to be competitive than Andretti, who have created a vast infrastructure, hired team personnel, and is heralding an American automotive giant as an OEM within 2 years of entering the sport? The joy that I spoke of at the beginning of poking fun at Renault and Alpine becomes more of a source of frustration when considering considering that a team with their ducks in order are being strong-armed out for every reason other than sporting, and they are being denied entry when the laughingstock of the sport is being given all the leeway in the world in regards to their current existence in the sport. If anything, Alpine and Renault's involvement has given nothing to the sport in recent years, while actively harming the manufacturer's reputation. I mean, even their Le Mans cars didn't last long last weekend. If Renault are unable to provide an engine and are considering benching their F1 engine project, they should be forced to sell the team to a franchise with a plan in place for the future and a hunger to do what Renault have failed to do for years now. But then again, that's probably wishful thinking on our part. 2 months ago, when rumours were rife about Andretti's bid to enter the sport, Alpine insisted that the team was by no means up for sale, and while Alpine has denied to comment more recently following the results of their internal probe, this is what they had to say back then. The rumours and stories about the team being up for sale are false. The team is categorically not for sale. With Renault CEO Luca De Meo doubling down on this, saying, "I want to make this very clear, there is no way we are going to give up. It's not my style. We will not even sell a part of this thing. We don't need the money. I've had people making offers left and right, then talking in the press about it, but we are not interested. It would be stupid and I won't do it." Which, given they sold a quarter of the team last year, seems like prime bullshit. Given Renault's history in the sport, they aren't exactly known for not flip-flopping in regards to staying in the sport. Not only that, their all-star team of investors that have bought out a substantial part of the Alpine team, 24% to be exact, may not be too enthused about the current direction of the team, or their lack of, and may start applying internal pressure to act decisively in regards to the future of the team. And with a large contingent of American and American-leaning investors, such as sports people who would be drawn to capitalize on the American market, it may well be that there is internal pressure guiding the team towards Andretti in some capacity, and it may pick up speed quickly. Let's say, however, that Honda are forced to provide their engines to Alpine, which in itself is ridiculous. It's like having to pay for someone else's dinner because they've decided they don't want to pay anymore after they've already eaten it. Well, it actually opens up some pretty interesting timelines if it were to happen, as it may just open up a few doors for some drivers that would otherwise be stuck. It's assumed that Honda Works driver Yuki Tsunoda isn't overly rated by those high up at Red Bull, with his contract extension to the end of next year being due to Honda's continued involvement within the team until the new regulations. Honda's involvement with Alpine could open up the opportunity for Tsunoda to once again directly work with his father company, and could grant them the opportunity to continue Tsunoda's F1 career without upsetting the apple cart at Aston Martin. For as long as Alonso wants to drive, he will drive, and the same can be said with Lance Stroll, however due to obviously different reasons, so having another team in which they can exert their influence could be of benefit to Honda and, by extension, the Japanese driver. This then wouldn't only benefit Yuki and Honda, as it would open up a seat at Alfa Minardi v Carb Rosso and would allow the team to finally get back to what it's supposed to be, a breeding pool for the next generation of talent from the junior formulas, while also fulfilling its current role as a retirement home for Daniel Ricciardo. Red Bull do not overly rate Yuki Tsunoda, but for as long as Honda is involved with them, they have to have him in the team. This is in spite of last season's 5-race audition by Liam Lawson, who kept up with the man who had been at the team for 3 years at that point and did a better job than the man he replaced did, with far less experience, with him jumping in the car with no testing, mid-season, and within 24 hours of his debut race start in the rain. Because of his fantastic display last year, Lawson was promised a seat in order to keep him settled at the team. But the closer we get to next year, the more likely it seems that his trust in Helmut Marko's word has been betrayed. With a seat becoming open if Yuki was to be reclaimed by Honda within a new team, Lawson would finally be let off the leash, with Daniel Ricciardo serving as an experienced litmus test alongside the young Kiwi, who surely cannot have done any more to be granted a seat in Formula One. So let us know what you think. Do you think this split could occur? And if so, which direction will it go? Will it go towards Honda being obliged to give up their engines to a competitor? Or will it go down the Andretti route? One way's for sure, this opens up a whole can of worms in what is already a very busy silly season. Thank you for watching.